I have a whole bunch of spirit essences to try out. They're totally new to me. I've never had them before, and I thought I'd bring you guys along for the ride. We'll see what they're like together, shall we? How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, this is Still It, and these, I should show you the front, shouldn't I? are the new Impressence essences by Kegland. And yes, I had a chat with Key about these from Kegland. Yes, they sent them to me for free, but I have absolutely no financial dog in this game whatsoever. No one at Kegland knows that I'm making this video. They just sent me the essences and asked me for feedback on them, essentially. And I was gonna just make a bunch up and try them, but I thought, if I was gonna go to that trouble, why not make a video and we can try them out together. You guys can see if they're any good. There are literally 20 different flavors that I've got here. And each of them are mixed, supposedly, according to the recipes on the back, with 1.25 litres of alcohol. And sure, I like a good spirit as much as the next guy, but what I don't need in my life is literally 20 litres, no more, of random essence spirits around. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick just 7 of them to try today, and instead of making up like 7 whole bottles, I am going to drop the volumes down to just like a glass to taste of each, and we'll see where we go from there. Maybe if I really love some of them, I'll make the full bottle up, but let's get started. So what I'm going to do for each of these is, every one I've checked is 50 mils, and that goes into 1.25 litres of alcohol. So I'm going to scale that way down and do 12.5 mils. I can't be bothered trying to find the tab. Let's just do this, shall we? 12.5 mils of alcohol. I am using my potato vodka because that's what I've got plenty of at the moment. 12.5 mils, 10, 11, 12.5. 12.5 mils of vodka, and that's going to be half a mil of each of these, which is obviously going to be a little bit tricky to nail completely accurately, but I will be using a pipette to do so. I also need to make some space. So I can line all of these up and have some reasonable confidence that I'm not going to mix the flavors up and know what I'm tasting. What is this? This is the dark rum. So I have a history on this channel, I mean, kind of I guess you would call it a love-hate relationship with essences. And a lot of people say that I'm not fair with them in the past videos. Honestly, I think those are the people that just really love essences and they make a lot of them. My general feeling, you know what? Where's my coin? There we go. And are you going to stay there or are you going to spill on me? This is such a dumb idea. Let's do it this way. How do I say this without sounding like a condescending prick? If you're not really into a certain type of spirit, I think they're great to have. So the first one is a dark rum. The second one is a Kentucky bourbon. So if you're not really into like assessing, enjoying these spirits by themselves, they're fine, you know? Like, they'll do the job in terms of, you know, mix some of this with a vodka, and then drink it with Coke, you know? Like, if that's what you have, if that's how you drink your, what are we doing? Kentucky bourbon, then all power to you, mate. Like, mix up what you need from a bottle of vodka relatively quickly, right? Anytime I've tried a spirit that I actually enjoy drinking that spirit, or I've enjoyed trying to create that spirit the quote-unquote proper way, an essence has just never come close. Brown spirit essences just kind of don't make sense to me in a lot of ways. And I've said that in the past, and people have had to go at me for it and said that I need to do this and that, and, you know, like, mix them up and let them sit for a week. Mix them up and then add oak. Mix them up and whatever, like whatever little tricks you use. I'm not arguing that those tricks, I'm not saying that those tricks don't make it better. It's just, at the end of the day, it is a quote-unquote fake product, and it's never going to be as good. And that's fine. That's fine. What I do find a whole lot more interesting are essences for essentially like cocktail ingredient spirits, I guess I would call them. So I've got one that is a orange liqueur here. I've got one that's a melon liqueur. Erin's going through with her orders. Yes, I have made Cointreau in the past. The video kind of humbled the hell out of me, but we got a really good result in the end. Anyway, my point, yes, I've made it. Yes, it turned out really well. If this can get to like 80, 85% of that, then I would be really excited about it. It's something that I'm not going to drink by itself. I'm going to put into a cocktail with, you know, a really nice bourbon, for example, and make a cocktail out of. If I can have essences like this, where I just have a dirty great big bottle of vodka on the shelf, I whack one of these in it when I need a certain spirit for a cocktail, that's an intriguing proposition to me. So I'm very intrigued for these three: coffee, orange, and melon, and gin. I could see gin working out better than an aged spirit. In my mind, it's, I love gin, but I don't think it's as process intensive as a 10-year-old Scotch, for example. Anyway, enough rambling. I'll get the rest of these mixed up. One last step. These three, the orange, the melon, and the coffee, are liqueurs. So as expected, we need to add sugar to them. They each have specific instructions on their description page on the website. And they are slightly varying amounts of sugar. So once again, I've just scaled the amount of sugar for each down. I'm just weighing that out now with a fairly precise set of jeweler's scales. I'm trying to be as accurate as possible because, you know, being a little bit out, like being out 0.1 of a gram here can be a fairly serious difference at the bottle scale. Let me get the sugar into each of these. We'll stir it up, and I'm going to let these sit for about 2 hours just to make sure that the sugar is properly dissolved, and to let everything just meld a little bit. Obviously, yes, I agree. Doing this, you know, the longer the time, the better, of course. But you know what? We're not going to have that much time. All right, these have actually been sitting for more like 5 hours, a little bit better than I expected. Let's get stuck right in with the first one, which is dark rum. I'll be real, I'm not getting a whole lot of rum out of this. It's a little fruity, a little bit vanilla-y. I'm getting a little bit of woodness to it. Okay, it's better on the palate. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, as far as rum essences go, it's not bad. I don't know what to tell you. It just doesn't really taste like rum. It's sweet. It has a almost banana-like essence to it. It has a almost molasses-like sweetness to it. It's pleasant. It's quite nice. Don't know if I'd quite call it rum though. Kentucky bourbon. This one is going to be interesting. This is closer. The aroma's not terrible. Once again, it's quite pleasant. The same thing, I don't think if you handed this to me, I would even pick bourbon, let alone a Kentucky bourbon. It does have some aspects of an American-style bourbon, a slight cherry-ish note, which I'm not saying that in a bad way. Quite often I'll talk about, you know, like cough syrup cherry and how I'm not a huge fan of that flavor, even though it does pop up in a lot of real bourbons, American whiskeys. Once again, it's very pleasant. And honestly, in terms of essences, these, from memory, are probably about as close as I've gotten with a whiskey. It's just there's, I don't know, man, there's a depth and complexity there that is just, well, it's not there. All right, let's move on to, what is this? The single malt whiskey. And I'm doing the whiskeys first because my expectations are lowest for these ones, the aged products. Okay. Out of everything so far, I prefer this most on the nose, but I probably, out of these three styles, prefer single malt the best as a category, but I know single malt the best too, so I'm probably going to be more picky when it comes to this one. And interestingly enough, I don't hate the nose. But it totally falls apart on the palate. So on a whole, for these three, I'm never going to sit there and sip them like a rum, a Kentucky bourbon, or a single malt. If I was just going to have a rum and Coke or a whiskey and Coke, I'd probably use these because I don't want to like put all the time and effort and soul into making and aging a really nice brown spirit and then slap it in Coke. It feels kind of wrong. It feels like kind of a waste of my time and my effort, right? With the exception of a smoky Coke. I do that every now and again. But I think if you put these in a Coke, you probably wouldn't notice that much of a difference between, you know, this and whatever other bourbon you can buy, for example. And I do have to say, I think for what they are, they're doing a pretty solid job. It's just never going to replace the real deal. These are the ones that I'm particularly interested in. I'm actually going to do the gin first because I don't want the sweetness of these to kind of jack things up for me with the London Dry Gin. I am very, very interested to see how this one tastes. I really like gin. I've been getting into it more and more. So I am kind of picky when it comes to gin, but I can also see an essence working a whole lot better. Juniper, cardamom. I'm not getting a whole lot of citrus, but if I didn't know this was an essence, I wouldn't be necessarily saying that's a bad thing. The nose is quite pleasant as far as the gin goes. Yeah, okay. So, I'm going to say right now that most of the gins that I've made properly are better than this. But if you gave this to me and told me it was gin, or actually, even better, if you gave this to me and asked me what it was, I would immediately say gin. So it's already head and shoulders above, careful, in terms of the actual result, in terms of delivering what it says on the package than the aged spirits, which isn't, man, I need some more of this. I'm not surprised. Yep, well played. It's not an overly complex gin, but in saying that, I actually think this is probably more true to the London Dry style than a lot of craft gins that you buy with those letters on the box. It's relatively bold. It is juniper forward. It does feel dry on the palate. It's not sweet at all. Relatively one-dimensional, but once again, I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. I've also got the Bombay Dry Gin. So after trying this, I'm kind of intrigued to give this one a nudge. And every time I do an essence video, I always get you guys to give me a list of things that you think I should try. I know. You guys suggest stuff and then it takes me months, if not years, to get around to trying it. But I do, trust me, I do like screen capture or copy paste your suggestions into a folder and go back and try them later. Now, which one are we going to do first? Let's do the coffee last because I'm not going to taste anything after that probably. There's a teeny tiny bit of sugar that hasn't dissolved in these, but I'm not that worried about it. I should say for all of these, I've been kind of subconsciously accounting for the strength, the mixture of alcohol to essence, because on this size, it's not going to be 100% accurate. That's pretty damn good. Oh, by the way, sorry team, this is the orange liqueur. I have to imagine they're going after Cointreau with this one. It smells pretty damn good. And when I tried to make Cointreau, I found out really quickly that just putting orange zest into a still and distilling it does not give you Cointreau. It's too orangey, funnily enough, and too volatile. Cointreau, when you actually sit down and try and pull it apart and think about what it tastes like, has kind of a jammy, marmalade-y quality to it. I had to go find the real deal and taste it next to it, because from memory, this is pretty close. I'm out of glasses, so I'm going to do this. Interesting. Okay. Weird. This is exactly what happened in that video when I tried to recreate Cointreau. I think I know what Cointreau tastes like, and then I pull it out and pour it, and it's not like that. This is delicious. It's really good. It's more orangey than Cointreau. The Cointreau has more of the bitter orange, the marmalade orange kind of flavors coming through. It's more marmalade-y, it really is the best way to describe it. It's nice, man. It's good. I feel like they've nailed the sugar concentration in this too. So, this is more fresh orange. Cointreau has more of that jammy, marmalade-y, like marmalade bitterness to it. I don't know if they were specifically trying to nail Cointreau. If they were trying to specifically nail Cointreau, it's not quite there. But it's damn delicious. It's really good. There's nothing I can really knock about it. It smells like real orange. As opposed to, this doesn't smell like, you know, I don't know. It smells like kind of different flavors crammed together to try and appropriate a whiskey. This just smells like an orange liqueur. And tastes like it. So, well played. Let's move on to the melon liqueur, which once again I'm assuming is going after Midori. And I'll be real with you, I don't know Midori that well. I don't know if I've ever sat and just sipped Midori by itself. Whoa. Okay, that's fun. Smells good. That's really nice too. So I feel like I'd be talking out of turn if I tried to say too much, other than I feel like they've absolutely nailed the color from memory, and it doesn't smell or taste like fake. That's pretty solid. All right, coffee liqueur. I am definitely a bit of a coffee nut. I don't get to drink it that much because it messes with my gut, but my wife is an absolute coffee nutter. We always have coffee around. I know what good coffee tastes like. I know what bad coffee tastes like. And I have indulged in some very nice coffee liqueurs. It's pretty damn hard to make this stuff. So I have low to average expectations for anything like this that involves coffee. It's quite vanilla-y and a little bit, it's kind of like vanilla and instant coffee, but not entirely in a terrible way. It doesn't taste like espresso, that's for sure. But it definitely tastes like coffee. And there's none of the weird acid balance, bitterness, astringency kind of problems that I've had when I try and make something like this myself. It almost comes across like mochaccino sort of flavor. It does have a rich mouthfeel, more so than the sugar by itself would account for. It's just, it's nice, I like it. There's a slightly weird vanilla flavor in there that I'm not entirely on board with, but that could be a personal preference thing. So let's talk about this as a whole for a second, and basically want to come back to like my impression, my thoughts on what essences are and are not good for, and whether or not my opinions have changed, because I've tried to come into this with a fairly open mind. For the aged spirits, the rum, the Kentucky bourbon, and the, what was this, single malt, yep. No, my opinions haven't changed at all. As far as essences go for aged spirits, they actually do a pretty decent job. I'm never going to sip on them. I think they're absolutely crap for that. There's no imitation for the real thing, basically, when it comes to this kind of thing. It's just the way it is, man. I don't know why that's shocking to anyone. But like I keep saying, if you just want a rum and coke, sure, like smash it out. So much Coke in there, you're not going to taste much rum anyway, and I don't see an issue with any of that. The liqueurs are something that I have thought for quite some time that essences could nail, just because of the kind of flavors that are in there. I feel they're a whole lot more achievable with food science. And these are kind of showing that off. Like, I'm really impressed with the orange. The melon, I feel like I should be impressed with, but I don't know that type of drink well enough. And the coffee's close enough that I think that maybe it's personal preferences getting in the way for me on that one. I could 100% see myself having, having 10 different bags like this sitting on a shelf with, almost like an emergency kit for when I want a cocktail and I really need orange liqueur, for example, or, any of these kind of things. What else have I got here? Ouzo, I can see that being pretty damn good. And one of the classics, I can see that being pretty good as well. Have I changed my mind? No, I think these are great for it. Did these specific essences impress me? Yeah, kinda. I don't know, man. I think gin's like the easiest spirit that you can really nail other than vodka in a lot of ways. And it's so easy to experiment with and dial in your personal preferences. In saying that, I could see, and I have experimented with the still spirits kits, where they break the gin flavors down into separate flavors and let you kind of tincture up your own thing. In fact, I think I made a video about that not long ago. It's probably over a year ago now, where essentially I used different essences broken in like gin components, deconstructed gin essence, to tincture together to get a flavor profile that I was into, and then use that as inspiration to then just make your own, from scratch. That was the Still Spirits essence kits. Gin's good, just not 100%, my style on the gin. And I may find that, where is it? The Bombay gin, wherever it is. Maybe this is more to my style. So all in all, relatively impressed with these essences compared to other essences, definitely. As a concept, yeah, for sure. But I'd be very interested to hear what you guys have to say about them. How many of you have tried them? I'm guessing those in Australia have probably more likely had your hands on them. And of course, I would be interested to hear your thoughts on the essence category as a whole, and see if you think I'm just being a snooty prick, whether you think I've nailed it in terms of what they're good for and what they're not good for. I genuinely am interested to hear your thoughts on this, because I might be missing out. Anyway, hope you have a kick-ass week, guys. I'll catch you next time. See ya.